In this episode of the Business of E-commerce, I talk with Gibb about growing your e-commerce business using a customer referral program. This is the Business of E-commerce, episode 75. Today's episode is sponsored by Drip. Drip is the world's first e-commerce CRM and a tool that I personally use for email marketing and automation. Now, if you're running an e-commerce store, you need to give Drip a try, and here's why. Drip offers one-click integrations for both Shopify and Magento. There's robust segmentation, personalization, and revenue dashboards to give you an overview of how your automation emails are performing. One of my favorite features of Drip is the Visual Workflow Builder. It gives you a super easy way to build out your automation rules visually and see the entire process. It lets you get started quickly, but also build very complex automation rules. It's powerful, but also easy to learn, unlike a lot of email tools that offer the same type of automation. To get a demo of Drip today, you can go head over to drip.com/BOE. That's drip.com/BOE. Now, onto the show. Welcome to the Business of E-commerce, the show that helps e-commerce retailers start, launch, and grow the e-commerce business. I'm your host, Charles Pileski, and I'm here today with Jay Gibb. Jay is the founder of CloudSponge, where he's an expert in referral programs. I have Jay on the show today to talk about how you can use an e-commerce referral program to help grow your business. So hey Jay, how you doing today?
Doing well. How you doing, Charles?
Doing well. So I want to start off. So I haven't heard the term very often. Kind of referral programs. I know a little bit about it, but kind of what exactly is a referral program? Like how would you even define that to get started?
Okay. Yeah. So usually when people use the expression or the term referral program, they're talking about something where their existing customers, in other words, people that have purchased something from them, are referring friends or colleagues or people they know to purchase similar products, right? It's different from an affiliate program, which I'm sure you've talked about a lot on your podcast, because usually an affiliate program, the affiliates aren't necessarily customers. They can just be good bloggers or marketers that are earning a commission by sending you traffic. Whereas a referral program, because it's something that you are asking your existing customers to do for you, usually you're going to give them some kind of reward if they do it, right? Especially if they do it successfully. So lots of e-commerce sites out there have a referral program where if you purchase a product and then you send a coupon for that product, for example, to somebody you know, and that person buys it, then you can maybe get a discount on your next purchase or something free or some kind of reward for sending them a paying customer. So it definitely has a lot of components that are similar to an affiliate program, but the rewards are really the place where it becomes different.
So it's kind of like the refer a friend sort of thing. I bought X, and then because I refer you, now I get a discount on my next whatever that is. I kind of see this a lot in like subscription, right, where you're paying, for just like a box type program, right, where you get the box every month of shaving or whatever it is, products, and you refer 5 friends, and because they all signed up, now you get the next 5 months for free, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, that's one very popular thing, and then the other side of it that tends to work really well with e-commerce, in some cases it works much better, is actually to give your customer a way to get their friends a discount. So a lot of times they're different from affiliates in that they're more interested in hooking their friends up with a good deal than they are in like earning a gift card or a discount on their next purchase. And so I think every store owner should test those things and figure out which one works for their customer base and their product. But most of the time, a referral reward for both parties is going to be the thing that's most successful.
Okay, so you're saying use this code, because I'm giving you this code, you're actually going to get something. The person giving and receiving both get something.
Yeah. So, one of the famous ones out there is the Airbnb program. I know that's kind of tangentially similar to e-commerce, but it is a marketplace. It's pretty similar. And what they do is, if you send a referral to your friends are going to get, well, I don't know, it changes all the time, but let's say it's $50 off their first booking. And if they book something, then you're going to get $50 off your next booking, right?
Okay.
And so you're sending it to your friends because you want to help them save some money. And then they're sort of compelled to do it because they know if they do it, you're going to save some money next time too, right? And so it ends up being something where everybody is being sort of altruistic about it. And that's, psychologically something that just seems to work really well in those types of transactions.
Yeah, and I feel like if, as just an end user, right, for you to share it on Facebook or with your network or wherever it is, if it's just, hey, buy it from here, I'm going to get some money, that feels a little, not a lot of people want to ask that, right? Versus saying, hey, buy from here and you'll get some money. I'll get a little too, but you'll actually get a big discount too, and we'll both win. Feels a little more like we're doing this together sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. And that'll tend to work better also with like direct sharing rather than, putting a unique link on your Facebook wall or your Twitter feed or whatever. Again, another thing worth testing is uh, finding ways to let your users directly share those with specific individuals. So via email, which seems to be the one that performs best, because you get an email from your friend. This isn't from them to you with a message they wrote for you. It's a lot more personal. It's less scalable, but if the conversion rate is higher, then it's probably worth doing. And then the same thing applies with other messaging platforms like Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp, where it's a specific individual who's sending a message to somebody, and it's not necessarily something that's just widely posted on a feed somewhere that's easy to ignore, right?
Yeah. Okay. So same thing. You always see like you always have that friend that runs the a marathon and wants you to help sponsor it. And when they send out that thing on Facebook, you kind of just scroll past it. When they send an email directly to you, you can't just ignore them, right? Like you're gonna see them eventually, so you have to either respond to the email or do something. So it's one of those things that
Right.
one to one almost forces someone to take some sort of action, whether it's a no or a yes, but at least they're going to do something back to you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it kind of compels the response, right? It's not so easy to just scroll right on past it.
Gotcha. What kind of
Yeah.
e-commerce, like what kind of type of business you see using this? Any kind of verticals where it makes the most sense in?
So we've seen it being used in subscription box businesses quite a lot, and just in ordinary e-commerce businesses, and then like marketplaces are the three big categories that we have using our software for their referral programs.
Okay, subscription box, I can see where that's gone, right? Where they, they're paying $30 a month, but if they refer someone for each person, they get a free month, something like that. I'm guessing that's kind of the deal most people are doing.
Yeah, or something similar, right? Everybody's a little different, but yeah, that's the basic structure most of the time. Yeah.
How about in a standard e-commerce business? What's kind of the reward you're giving for that? What will people
Uh,
typically do?
Yeah, most of the time you can think of it more like coupons, like personalized coupons, I guess. We've already kind of talked about it, right? Where you buy something, and then at the end of the checkout process, because you don't really want to interrupt your customers before they've checked out, right? As everybody I'm sure knows. But on that thank you page, after they've gone through the checkout, you can say, hey, you just bought a pair of socks. If you know anybody else that might like these socks, then, here's a place where you can send them a link, and they'll get a $5 off or $20 off or 10% off or whatever it is you want. And then that's your opportunity to do some testing and figure out what messaging works and sort of what rewards are going to work best for both sides of that transaction, right? But usually you want to put it, hang it off the end of a checkout process.
Yeah, that's a really good point right there too, right? Because that checkout process, right? You don't want to, unless you really know, like this is the thing I want to do. You never want to touch that flow inside the checkout process, from add to cart to the actual checkout. That kind of has to stay as is. But the stuff on the end is where you can experiment and play, right? Because if you do something that's wrong, you still got the checkout, so you're still okay. And if you got something and you up the rate, like recapture type email, like upsells, cross sells, that sort of thing, just doing anything like that is just an addition. So you can test, you can try things, and it's not something that if it doesn't work, it's like tank the business. If it doesn't work, you just try something else. So adding it after is really kind of one of the keys there, I'm imagining, where you can get people to adopt it much easier.
Yeah. And personally, I used to get that experience with my one of my business partners myself. at the end of the Amazon checkout process, because this is way back when Amazon mostly just sold books, and we were, always buying books, like business books. And pretty much every book that he read, he wanted me to also read, and every book that I read, I wanted him to also read. So we would buy a book on Amazon, and then it was like reflex at the end of that process, like send him a coupon for the same book, because I know he's going to read it. He's going to want to read everything I've read, so the next time we hang out, we can talk about it. So I'm going to send him a 10% off coupon, and that was something that I probably used that feature 50 times over the course of a couple of years, right?
Yeah, I see. So you basically, same deal. You bought the book, and you basically pulling out that address from your friend and saying, "I want these 3 friends to actually get exactly the same thing I just got, and let's just shoot it right to them."
Right. Yep.
Very cool. So then, what do you actually? It's just talking about CloudSponge too. You're using that to pull out their email, and then what do you actually? Once you get their address, how do people actually email these folks? Like, what's that process look like?
Yeah, so CloudSponge customers generally already have a referral program that functions, that uses, most of the time they're using some kind of transactional or marketing email provider. So they're using, in the transactional category, they're going to be using SendGrid or Mailgun or Mandrill. And on the marketing email side, they'll be using, ActiveCampaign or MailChimp or one of those guys in that vertical.
Drip was actually a sponsor of last week's show, so there we go.
There you go.
Yeah,
yeah, they'll use Drip as well. And they usually, our customers, they've got a referral program. It's working well. They're already sending those emails, and they just want to multiply its performance because it's already working, and they want to keep it and double down on it. And so what we do for them is we give them a widget, like a JavaScript widget, that they can point at a field where previously they'd be having like their customer enter in. I'm sure everybody that's listening has seen this before. Like, please type in a comma-separated list of your friends' email addresses, maximum 20, which is laughable, right? Like, who's gonna on their smartphone or who's gonna switch between a browser window 20 times to go copy and paste a bunch of email addresses into a list, right? Nobody's going to do that. So what we're doing for them is we just give them buttons they can put near that field, like a Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook.com, AOL buttons, so that people can click on those links, view their address book inside the browser without leaving the e-commerce website, search and select the people that they want to share with, and then when they exit our widget, that field is now completely populated with a comma-separated list of email addresses. And the user didn't have to type anything, didn't have to memorize anything, didn't have to leave the browser to copy and paste everything. They just did it right there in the window. And just doing that, adding our buttons to that functionality will typically multiply the number of referrals that are sent by 2 or 3 times.
Okay, so you're basically sucking it out of, whether is it a desktop or it can run on the mobile, it doesn't matter, right? But whatever the address book is, you can suck contacts out of that.
That's right. Yeah, we're integrated with about 50 of them, depending on where your audience is. Like, assuming your audience is mostly, in North America, then Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook.com, AOL, iCloud are probably the ones that matter the most to them. Around the world, we're integrated with address books in all over Europe and in Asia as well, and South America. So it kind of depends on where they're at, right? But our job is to make sure that it's really easy for people to authenticate with wherever they store their contacts and display them in their browser without leaving, whether they're on a mobile device or on their desktop. It doesn't matter.
Okay, so same way they I'm picturing anything on LinkedIn. Every time you go to add a contact, where it brings up every other contact on the planet, goes, "Do you know any of these people?" And you're like, "Sure, yeah, I know some of them, I guess." And you just kind of add people. So it's something like that where you kind of just pop up this thing of, "Hey, you can select off these people and hit OK," and then it just does its thing, right?
Yeah, it's basically like an alphabetically sorted list of everybody who's in your address book. And if you're on a phone, it's got that like tappable alphabet along the right margin, so you can jump to different letters of the alphabet. Across the top, it's got a search field where, as you're typing somebody's name, the first couple letters of their name, it's sort of pre-guessing what you might be typing to make it so you don't have to type the whole thing. And it kind of goes through all the typical expected UI components that I think internet users expect nowadays, and just makes it really convenient for them to be able to select those people and populate that field on your website without getting frustrated.
Okay, so easily pulls the contacts out, and then let's say people are using Drip, a Constant Contact, or one of those, Active Campaign. What actually happens next? Like where are they doing the actual sending of that process?
Yeah, what happens next is different for every one of our customers. Like, we don't provide that for them, so we don't prescribe anything specific. But typically, what happens is they're going to submit that. The user is going to submit that form. And it's going to send a list of email addresses to the back end of the service. If they're using WooCommerce, it'll be the WordPress backend. Whatever. And then they'll have an integration that actually sends those emails and like loops through the list and send those personalized emails to the Drip API or whichever API they want to use for their business, right?
Okay, so they're getting some sort of, let's just say, a tag with a specific product. So it's all pulling together from the checkout page, your product, everything pulls together and drops them onto, let's just say, a list, and then fires off an email saying, hey, Jay just bought this book, but he really wants you to read it. Send some personalized message and kind of fires off to them, right?
Yeah, that's right. And the e-commerce stores that are really trying to optimize and they really are investing in doing this, they'll just be really careful about those emails, right? Some of the things they'll do is they'll make sure that the sender's name appears in the subject line. Like, Jay wants you to look at this book, just so that I know that this is coming from Jay. Or in the from field of the email, it'll say, like, Jay Gibb via e-commerce store name,
Yep.
right? So this email, the recipients of these emails see a name that they recognize, the person that's sending this to them, right? And bonus points, we have some of our customers have gone so far as to use Gravatar and display the sender's face and say, like, Jay really wants you to see this. Like, here's his face. Like, this is definitely from Jay. And they've been really, really gone as far as they can in terms of demonstrating to the recipient of these emails that it's not just a marketing email. It's not spam. It's being delivered to them because somebody that they know really wants them to have it and see it, right?
Yep. What are the kind of best practices have you found kind of to get people to open those emails and recognize, hey, it's not like, it's not some random e-commerce site emailing me. It's my friend Jay. And Jay, it's really, this is, although it's from the e-commerce site, it really is Jay telling me about this. How do you what have you seen to get people to really understand that?
Yeah, so the ones I just mentioned are important. Those are the first ones that come to mind, right? Using the person's name in the subject line or the from field. Because a lot of times the recipient of these emails hasn't heard of your store before, right? And so in order for them to care, they need to see something that they recognize. Otherwise, they're just going to just archive it, right? And assume that it's spam. Worse, they're going to unsubscribe and you're never going to be able to email them again, right? So those are a couple of the important ones. Another important one is, if possible, let the sender personalize a message, right? Give them a form field, like a text area on your website that allows them to type something in their own words, because then every email that goes out is a little different. And you're not just sending the same email to everybody who uses this form on your website, right? And it gives the sender an opportunity to maybe say why. Like, why do I think you need a pair of socks? Or why do I think you're going to enjoy this book? Or whatever, right?
Yeah, so keep them personalized. Totally get that. So then is there anything with like deliverability kind of the retailer needs to worry about? Or is that kind of all handled by the ESP, email service provider? Or is that like, because it's not really coming from Jay, it's coming from my e-commerce site, right? So is there anything I need to worry about there? Or is that just a non-issue? Like, the provider worries about that for me.
Yeah, I mean, I get that's definitely not my specialty, but yeah, the ESPs are going to be the ones that are highly motivated to make sure that deliverability is high, because it's a super competitive vertical, and they won't be in business if they can't get into the inboxes. So that for me is sort of, if you start to have deliverability issues, then consider changing to a different ESP, and that's email service provider.
Yep.
And then we've had some of our customers have experimented with sort of like a modified version of a mail to link, because like mail to links in general are a terrible user experience. I think most people agree. But if they're using a product like CloudSponge and they're identifying beforehand which tool they use for their email, so they're telling you, like, I use Yahoo, because they're clicking on a Yahoo button to import their address book, right? Now you know that they're going to use Yahoo to send this email. You can actually create a customized version of a mail to link to open up a composer, like a Yahoo Mail composer window, with everybody that they selected from their address book in like a BCC field, right?
Okay.
And so there's obviously some huge trade-offs there, because the BCC field thing isn't perfect. It's not great to do that. But if you're optimizing for deliverability, that might be the best, because then it's going literally from this person's Yahoo address to their friends.
And then you're bypassing spam, and you're not going to be in that promotions tab. You'll be in the inbox, right? If you're doing that.
Yeah, you're not going to use an ESP at all. This really looks like a direct email from a person to another person. So you're going to
really, at that point, it really is, right? Like, it's really, someone just opened their Yahoo, and you basically pre-populate it. You're essentially using someone's Yahoo, right? But you're pre-populating the email.
Right. Yeah. So you can experiment with that. The trade-offs there are, you'll get better deliverability, but you are using the BCC field, which doesn't allow you to personalize the message for each individual. Basically, all of these people are going to receive the same message, and they may or may not feel comfortable about a message where they're not in the to field. Like, I don't know, right? It depends. You got to do some testing with your customer base. And then the other trade-off is when you do it that way, you don't get any of the metrics that you get from ESPs. You don't get open rates, click-through rates, any of that stuff. You just don't get any of it, right? And so if that stuff is important to your business and you're sort of in a mode where you really want to optimize your subject lines, you want to optimize like your from fields and all that kind of stuff, it might be better to start with an ESP so that you can get all those metrics until you feel like you've sort of optimized it as much as you can, and then experiment with, launching those Yahoo or Google and Outlook.com composer windows instead.
Got it. Okay. Because then if you're going direct with email, it's basically this, you have like 2 data points. You know how many, you actually don't know how many were sent, but you just know how many coupons came back. So it's basically, they could have sent out 1,000 in the BCC and you got 2 back, or they could send out 2 and you got 2 back. So you don't even know if it's 100% or 0.2% at that point. But once you go through an ESP, you can open rate, click-through rate, like add to cart. You can literally just follow them all the way down the funnel, so you can really understand what that process looks like, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. And with a mail to link or equivalent, all of the recipients are going to receive the same email, which means you don't have the benefit of metadata that you would have with an ESP, where with all of these ESPs, every record has the option of having a unique variable, right? So the ESP is going to loop through a big long list, and every single email is going to be customized, so that you can track them all independently, right? And you sort of don't have any of that functionality if you use like a mail to link, right? So
okay,
it really depends on what you're trying to optimize for.
So you're talking like link clicks, that sort of thing. Because if you put a link using ESP, you can see not just how many people clicked it, but who clicked it specifically. So as soon as they click, it registers. First with the BCC, even if you use like a bit.ly link, it just tells you clicks, but you don't know who these clicks were. It could have been the same person 50 times. They could have forwarded it. You're not really sure at that point. It just kind of, you got a bunch of clicks.
Exactly. Yeah, you said that much better than I did.
How many people typically do, I'm trying to think how to word this correctly, but when someone does this type of referral, how many friends do they typically refer? Is this like, they buy the book and refer like 1 or 2 friends, or is this something someone goes in the address book and just select all and just let's send this out to 1,000 people today? Like, what do people typically do?
The only thing that I can sort of comment on with that is averages, right? Like, it's kind of, I don't really know. With every company is different. Every experiment with rewards is different, right? But what we do see is if you imagine a page where you're asking users to type in a comma separated list of email addresses manually, you'll get out of every page view on that page, let's say another way to say it actually is out of 100 or so page views, you might get one email address. Like people just aren't motivated to do that. It's too much work, right? You have to have a super, super good reward for them to be motivated enough to actually go and type in email addresses. If they're on a mobile phone, it's less than one, right? Yep. And it's very, very rare for somebody on a mobile phone to actually have the patience to type in a comma separated list of email addresses, like more than one, right? It just doesn't happen. And so what we've generally collected anecdotally because we don't actually get this data in our system because we're just doing the address book part, but we do talk to a lot of customers, and what we've gathered is only about 5% of people that see that page are going to click on one of the CloudSponge buttons, right? So out of all the people that see the page, like 1 out of 20 is going to click on the Gmail or Yahoo or Outlook.com button to view their address book, right? But those 5% will generate 50 to 70% of the referrals that are sent. Like they'll generate a lot, especially if you've got good rewards. And so it's worth doing. And those ones, in order to, I haven't done the math actually to answer your question because I wasn't prepared for it. But if I'm sure we could do the math and figure out like what does that mean as far as an average number of email addresses inserted into that field per person, and it's much better than making them type. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, on my mobile, to make me type, you'd have to offer like a free car for me to put in a list of 3 email addresses or something. Yeah. I'm just not going to do that. And right. I find that interesting. Only 5% of people, though. So you said after checkout, only 5% actually are even going to refer one person. Is that kind of the number?
Yeah. So 5% of the people who send at least one referral will use their address book to do so.
Okay. Do you know how many people send at least one referral? What that number is?
I wish I did. No, that's something that unfortunately, we don't have visibility into that. Like that's our customers' analytics that would know that. And so this is really just anecdotal.
Okay.
But the point is that not everybody understands what those buttons are for. And out of the people who do understand, not all of them are comfortable sharing their address book. Like there's obviously some privacy issues there. And some people are just like, there's way too many people that I care about in my address book. There's no way I'm going to share that with this e-commerce website. And that's fair. That's fine. And not everybody's going to do it. But 5% of them will, right?
So it's 5% of people. So it's 5% of people who click on it will actually do it? Or what's the 5% from where to where?
5% of the people who send at least one referral will use their address book to do so.
Okay, got it. So some people are still... So when you pop up this little send it to a friend form, some people will still opt to just type it in, but there's 5% of people who will say, hey, let's pull it out of my address book. And out of those people, that accounts for what percentage of the referrals?
Half,
okay.
Or more.
Okay, so it sounds like one of those levers that if you can like slightly optimize and just even get, first just obviously just add the button, right? And try to use your address book, because that alone is going to get you double, if you're doing this at all. We don't know that number, but if you're doing this at all, just adding your address book will essentially double your rate, right? It accounts for half, so kind of it doubles the total rate. And if you could even optimize that like a small percentage, that sounds like a pretty huge win.
It is, yeah. And all of our happiest e-commerce customers are the ones who sort of come to CloudSponge and they've already got a referral program where they're asking their users to type in email addresses, like a comma separated list of email addresses. They've already got that. It's already a flywheel that's spinning, and it functions, and it does produce some revenue for them. And that revenue has a super low customer acquisition cost, right? Because all they had to do is send an email, right? And then they discover CloudSponge, and they add our buttons to that field, and it'll more than double the number of referrals that they get, right? So out of that referral channel, they'll double or triple the performance of that channel with 5 minutes of work of plugging in the CloudSponge JavaScript widget.
Got it. Okay. So at CloudSponge, you're specifically finding people that are already doing this, and it's literally just a way of squeaking out this extra margin out of this channel that's already working and just make it work more, better type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like we don't provide the referral program. We don't send emails. We don't do any of that stuff. That's all stuff that's sort of brought to the table by our customers. So we don't care if it's a custom e-commerce solution, if they're using like WooCommerce or Magento or Shopify or whatever they're using, doesn't matter to us, right? All we know is they've got a referral program that's functioning and they want to double or triple its performance, then they can plug CloudSponge in to make that happen.
Got it. Do you have any insight into what people are actually using for the referral part of it? Are they going in to the ESP itself and doing this like big workflow customization? Or is there like some other referral program software that somehow this all ties together with?
There's a lot of referral program software. It's a huge vertical. And there's, your customer or your listeners, if they're, on Shopify or WooCommerce or Magento, like all those places, like they all have referral program plugins and like a marketplace for. And some of those have CloudSponge integrated, some of them don't. Like obviously we don't have the entire market covered yet. But that's generally what they use. If they're not, like a lot of our customers are the ones that are sort of optimizing. And so they've got an engineering team. And so I don't actually know what platforms they use. Like Stitch Fix, for example, is one of the ones that we've written about on our website that, it's a big public company, right? Like I don't know what they use for their platform. Most likely it's custom, right?
But you already have integrations with other referral program software, right?
Yeah, we're integrated with maybe about 10 of them.
What are some of the top like 3 or 4 big ones? Trying to even
for e-commerce, probably friendbuy.com is one of the big ones. And they've been around for as long as we have, and then actually longer than we have. And I think they've got plugins for all the major e-commerce stores like Shopify and WooCommerce and stuff. So friendbuy is probably the one that's most likely to be interesting for your audience. Some of the bigger ones, like the ones that are more enterprise level, one is called Extol, extole.com. And another one's called talkable.com. And so those are 3 that are integrated with us that we love and we refer people to all the time. Because a lot of times after a conversation like this with somebody like you, we'll get people coming to CloudSponge saying, hey, I want you guys to do my referral program. And then I have to disappoint them and say, sorry, like we don't actually do that, but go check out Friendbuy or Talkable or Extol and they can help you, right? And so we're sort of in the middle of that and we're able to make those referrals. Once I understand sort of what the person's really looking for and what kind of business they're in, then usually I can make an intelligent recommendation for which platform they should look at.
Okay, so if someone's out there listening right now, step 1, if you haven't done that already, is start a referral program, something like that. And then once they already have that and they get whatever their rates are, they're getting whatever return they're going to get from that, then they can use something like CloudSponge to basically enhance that same return, right? So, but CloudSponge isn't the first, it's the step after you have the referral program going, is what you're saying?
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're like an optimization solution for referral programs. Yep.
Awesome. All right, this is super helpful. If people want to find more about you guys, what you're working on, what can they do so?
CloudSponge.com is the best place to learn about CloudSponge, of course. And reaching out to me personally, just use LinkedIn for that. You can just search for my name. I'm sure you guys will put it in the show notes. But when you reach out, like make sure you mention that you heard my talk on this podcast, and then you'll sort of break through the noise. These days there's been a lot of spam and noise on LinkedIn. So if you do that, then I'll know that you you handwrote the message for me.
You like those handwritten emails, right? That we have a theme going there. Yeah.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to get spammed. I mean, I don't know why people still do it. At CloudSponge, we refuse to do it. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, and that's really, so just handwrite the referral emails, handwrite the LinkedIn emails, and that kind of breaks through the noise. So less than
conversion rate over, Quality over quantity every day.
I like it.
That's my mantra.
Perfect. All right. Thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Cool. Thanks, Charles.